This is Chris Eubank Jr., and you're watching the All Out Fighting YouTube channel.
Can I just clear something up? Do you owe Neymar £4 million?
That is none of your business, my friend. That is between me and my good friend Nay.
Before we get on to boxing, when did you start playing poker?
Poker has been a part of my life for maybe the last 6-7 years. But I started playing high stakes poker maybe 4 years ago. Yeah.
So when you were first starting, did you ever just go into a casino in Brighton and just crack on? Or
of course, sat down with £100 and, we go all in and the heart was beating, it was an adrenaline rush, and now I play, for hundreds of thousands. So it's pretty insane how things have escalated and how the game has evolved and how I've evolved as a player. But yeah, it's a passion of mine.
Would you just play? You wouldn't pretend you wouldn't hide your identity. You wouldn't have a cap on when you went into these casinos. You just played as Chris Eubank Jr.
No, I mean, you when you're sitting down on a table with guys for hours on end, you can't conceal your identity. I would wear hats so that people in the other casino, around the casino, wouldn't see me and come to the table, but people knew who I was.
And how do you graduate from that to the more high stakes games?
Well, it's progression. As you become more capable as a player, you up the stakes. You start buying in for more. Then you start learning about private games and meeting new people, and come and play with us, and let's go there and let's go here, and the stakes just get higher and higher and higher and higher, until you're in Las Vegas or in Brazil or in Dubai, and you're playing in these massive games for real money, and it's like, how did I get here? But it's a rush. It's the one thing, it's the one part of my life where I get an adrenaline rush that is somewhat close to being in a fight. There's nothing else in my life that I do which gives me that heart pump, Maybe that's why I like it so much.
So you're in Vegas, you want to play. How do the games come about? Is it WhatsApp, or is it some sort of?
I mean, I now I play in games which are scheduled. I have, I'm part of groups, and I have very close friends who host games and invite me. The first time I was ever introduced to high stakes poker, I was actually playing at the an Aria casino on the Strip, and I was paying for like $300-400. Sat down, played for a couple of hours, and then I got up and left, went to walk over to the Cosmopolitan to go to a club over there, and I bumped into a man named Phil Hellmuth. And I was watching him play on YouTube the week before. So I was like, oh, that's Phil. That's Phil Hellmuth. He's one of the best poker players in the world in terms of tournaments and bracelets that he's won. So I saw him. I didn't say anything to him at first because I'm not really the type to approach people like that. But went to the bathroom, came back, and he's still there. So I was like, you know what? I'll just say what's up. Just tell him I've watch him play, and whatever. So I spoke to him, introduced myself, and he said, "Oh man, that's cool. I'm glad you have been learning from some of the stuff that I do. What do you do?" I said, "I'm a boxer." He said, "Wow, I love boxing. What's your record? When's your next fight?" So I asked him these questions. Then he said, "I'm about to go and play with Steve Aoki and a bunch of other guys in this private game. Do you want to join?" And I was like, wow, this is the best poker player in the world. Steve Aoki, the biggest DJ in the world. He's inviting me. I can't say no. How much is the buy-in? He was like, oh, it's only 10,000. It's nothing. It's small. I was like, I had $400 in my hand, in my pocket. I was like, yeah, okay, let's go. So I walk with him. I walk into the room. The room is the area is called the Ivy Room. It's like a private room where people host games. And I sat down, and in my head the whole time I'm thinking, where am I? I have the 10,000 in my bank account, but I can't. How am I going to withdraw the money? I've got to go. I was just all these things going on in my mind. And one of Phil's friends says, "Do you have chips?" I said, "No, not. I mean, not on me right now." He said, "All right, just pay me back when you're done." He threw me $10,000 in chips, just like that. Didn't even know the guy. I was like, "Holy shit! This is and I'm looking around, and $10,000 was the minimum buy-in. But most of these guys had 50, 60, 70,000 there. Because I had walked in with Phil Hellmuth, who is a very respected and well-known poker player, that kind of made them feel safe. Like, oh, well, if he's with Phil, then it's fine. We can give him the money and he'll pay us back. So that was the first time I was ever introduced to high-stakes poker. I ended up winning, I think, $8,000, $9,000. Gave the guy back his 10,000. And from that day on, I was hooked. I was from that day on, I was always in and out of these big games.
What's the most money that's ever been on the table?
Maybe $1.5 million, $2 million.
And you've, I believe, won and lost hundreds of thousands, or around about 100,000.
A lot. I wish it was that number. I've won and lost houses, for sure.
What was worse, losing 100,000 at poker or paying 100,000 fine for smashing an egg into Conor Benn?
Well, I haven't paid that fine yet, and we are going to appeal because I think that's an absolute disgrace of a number that they're trying to charge me. I think it's very unfair compared to what others have been fined for, a lot worse acts, in my opinion. But yeah, the fine definitely is worse because in poker you can lose 100,000 and you can win it right back in the next hand. This fine is, once I pay it, it's gone forever. So we'll see what happens.
Do you think there's more deception in poker or boxing?
It's a great question. It's probably very close. In terms of the business aspect of boxing, promoters and managers and agents and all these people who are doing all these underhanded deals, scraping money off the top of fighters' purses, roping fighters into terrible contracts. These things have been happening for years, and they will continue to happen. So in terms of the business side, there's deception is rife in the sport of boxing. It really is. In poker, the deception is it's part of the game. You've got to bluff. Sometimes you've got to go all in with nothing to try and deceive your opponent into folding, but it's a part of the game. The deception in boxing is not part of the game, and it should be erased. It should not be allowed, but it's the Wild Wild West in many cases, unfortunately.